Hello, welcome back. So I had to take a little bit of time to work out the confusion I had with these cottages, and I hope I've done the right thing. I've turned one cottage into two, so I've really increased the complexity of this part of the painting quite a bit, and that's a problem. Complexity generally not a good thing. I just hope I can get away with it this time. You're welcome to weigh in with your opinions. The good news is it definitely intensifies or clarifies what is the focal point of this painting. It's quite clear that it is in fact this right here as the focal point. Front and center horizontally, thankfully not centered vertically. That would really be bad. Okay, now I did want to bring you back in. I'll do just a few more things with these cottages. One is I want this to be a red roof, and I want to demonstrate for you how to red a roof. So I'm mixing up some fairly opaque, medium opaque paint, and the mistake would be to mix up some thick opaque paint and slap it on there. In this world, in this kind of painting, that would be a mistake. So I've got just a hint of redness on both of these brushes. I'm going to scumble. This is classic scumbling right here. I'm going to scumble. Whoa, that was a brave move and nothing happened, so I have to repeat the brave move, which I don't like doing. Doing a spontaneous stroke like that, it's like telling a joke. It's hard to, you can't tell a joke over again. What's that? What'd you say? I missed the punchline. What? You know how awkward that is then to try to say the punchline twice with any kind of, well, that's sort of the same thing when you do a spontaneous stroke like that. If it doesn't take, it's like pretty hard to reproduce the moment. But there. That was iffy. That's okay. Okay, that's enough red. I don't know what that looks like to you. But there's a little spot of real hot red right down there. And I think that's just enough. Whoops. Then I add, then I add more. Didn't intend to add quite that much, but that's all right. I'm painting on both sides of this telephone pole, as we call it in America. Even though most of them have very little to do with telephones these days. Okay, now, and the other roof over here, I likewise want to be green. And it is, these roofs are actually red and green in the photograph. See, there's my red roof, there's my green roof, and here's my red chimney. I added a couple of chimneys to the scene because I just felt like it really improved with more chimneys, especially when I tried to indicate that there are two cottages here. A white cottage on the far side of the brown one that's close to us. And in reality, that there is a white cottage beyond the brown one, but that reality doesn't force me to do that. Okay, same thing here with green. As in both cases, this already had a slight red cast, and this already has a slight green cast. So I don't need to do a lot. It would be very counterproductive to do a lot. Here's a general rule of thumb. When you paint the way I do in layers of transparent color, remember the underpainting is, just write it down or mark it, write it on your forehead with a permanent marker. The underpainting is more attractive than the overpainting. Okay? The underpainting has a magic to it that your underpainting can't match. So you always want to let as much of the underpainting show through as possible. Now some of you might be saying, why? That doesn't make blah, blah, blah. Okay, again, here's why. If you're painting in my universe, in my galaxy, which is the galaxy of transparent layers of underpainting, it's the fact that the underpainting is transparent. That's why it's more winsome and beautiful, then you're overpainting. Then you could say, well, then why don't you stop at overpainting? I kind of answered that already a little while ago, but I'll say it again, because the variety, the interplay of opaque on top of translucent is even more interesting than all, or opaque on top of transparent is even more interesting than all transparent. Got it? I've been so delicate with that roof. I think I can go a little bit harder, a little bit thicker, a little bit of plaster here, just a little bit. One of the things I often do, and I'm doing right here, one of the things I often do in this stage is diminish the impact of the pencil lines that I used earlier, the grease pencil. If you don't know what that is, here's, I think only, I talked to the owner yesterday, only Jerry's Artorama makes these pencils. Jumbo jet black. It's essentially a Conte crayon in a wooden holder. A little bit of wax, a little bit of oil, and they interact with both acrylics and oils quite nicely. So anyway, that's the pencil. But in the last stage, I of course have the freedom to say, yeah, it's a little bit too much pencil. Okay, now continuing with the theme of light, opaque, light, opaque, and lightly applied. Let's move on to the ocean, the horizon way back there. I'm mixing up a medium blue, not too dark. And let's come in here, kind of a dull aqua. That's a good name for this color, dull aqua. And again, applying it in a very light manner. I don't need to, whoa, even that feels a little too much. I might come back and smudge some of that out a little bit. And here, I definitely want to diminish some of the pencil line-ish. In my opinion, the pencil marks along this horizon are not helpful. I've done a number of seascapes, ocean beachscapes like this in the past where there's only a tiny bit of ocean showing, right? But it's amazing to me how much that's enough. That's all you need. It's just the eye, I think, interprets that as ocean. The mind translates that into the sea so easily. We don't need much. I mean, this, of course, this looks like beach, but just that little bit. Okay, I like that fairly well, but I've left myself open to do one of my favorite tricks. I was teaching my class last night and I said it this way. It is always safe. And there are not many things in oil painting that you can say that about. There are not many things that you can say that it's nearly always, almost always safe. That's what I really mean to say. There are not very many things in oil painting that you can say it's almost always safe to blank. But this is one. It's almost always safe. So here I have a certain color of paint indicating ocean-ish, right? And here I've mixed up the same exact color with a little more white in it, so it's slightly lighter. It's almost always safe to put a slightly lighter version of a color on top of what you just put down. So exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just coming back with a slightly lighter version of what's there. Now, little word about horizon. Some of you maybe have heard this before. I actually was doing a seascape not too long ago, and it had a horizon, had an ocean in the distance like this, and in the photographs, all the photographs, this line was razor sharp. The horizon line was razor sharp, and that kind of goes against our intuition that things that are far away should be soft and fuzzy, right? So I actually Googled it. It's quite simple. You can do it yourself. The question is, how far away is the horizon when you look at the ocean? And I was absolutely amazed. I was completely surprised. And the answer is, depending how tall you are, if you're 6 feet tall, the horizon, if you're standing with your toes at the edge of the water, the horizon is roughly 2 1/4, 2.5 miles away. In other words, not very far away at all. When you're standing at the ocean looking at it, you feel like you get the feeling like you're seeing way into the distance. You're seeing so far away, but in fact you're not at all. 2 1/4, 2.5 miles is really a short distance in landscape terms. The sky here, depending on the atmosphere, could be 50 miles away, but the top of the ocean horizon is just 2 miles away. So that's why in photographs it does literally appear razor sharp, because it's not far away, really far away at all. So then as painters, we have to decide whether to go realism, that is a sharp, hard edge, or whether to tweak it a little bit, and that's exactly what I've done here. I have it slightly softened, softer than it actually is in real life. Okay, now I think that's okay for the ocean. Wipe off these brushes. Oh, I need to do something to this cottage, don't I? It needs a little bit of attention. All these marks, by the way, on the light stuff on this and this cottage were all done last night when the paint was wet. It was all done with scratching. Scratching with the handle of one of these brushes. Just boom, 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 boom. And the effect was quite nice. It got me very close to where I want to end up, but not quite exactly where I want to end up. So I'm going to mix up here again some dark, transparent. Anytime I say dark, you know it's transparent, right? So some dark, transparent color, black, B-L-E-C-K, my favorite color, dark black. Usually made by mixing ultraviolet blue and oxide red or burnt sienna. Oxide red is not the same as burnt sienna, but they're very close in colors. That's why I often say I don't want students getting all hung up. I don't have any oxide red. Ah, shut up. You should never say shut up to your students. Oh my goodness. Don't whine. Your burnt sienna is perfectly fine. If you don't have that, you can mix up brown from all your colors. Okay. That's probably a little bit of mess. Okay, so that cottage is done. Now onto the beach, the distant beach way up here where it's far away. First of all, I'm going to put in a red umbrella. The question is, do I make it red and white umbrella, or do I just make it a red umbrella? The answer is I make it a red and white umbrella, evidently. So I'm mixing up a little bit of warm white. No, dull white with warm and cool in it both. Blue and yellow ochre in it both, because I don't want it too bright. I'm beginning to drive myself crazy. Too much right-handed painting. My brain begins to squeak after a while. If I paint too much with my right hand, it's me. Use me, use me, use me. The right side of my brain says. So I go, okay. Hang on, I'll use you. Back to my right hand again though. Now, you as viewers didn't know that this umbrella was coming. I sort of did. I sort of suspected all along that it was coming. But boy, have I changed have I influenced the composition of the painting just with that little addition. Let me let you have a front view of it. And I'm sorry, the glare is really bad when I do this. But there's what the whole painting looks like, right? It's a vertical painting down there. Most of the painting is empty space. All the energy, well, not all of it, but a little bit down there, but almost all the energy is way up there at the top. Not in the top 1/3, but in the top 1/6 of the painting, probably. 1/2, 1/4, yeah. I'm not quite done with this umbrella. 2 things I want to do with it. One is I want to lighten the red, and 2 is I want to lighten the white. I hope I've left myself enough room to lighten stuff. I think I have. Okay, there's the white. There's the red. And a little white with yellow ochre in it. Left hand squawking again. Just needed some messing up there. Okay, enough of that. Now let's do some sand, which is going to be almost pure white, titanium white with just a hint of yellow ochre in it for this distant spit of sand. These, of course, are going to be people walking. And they're way too dark right now, but they'll be lightened up before that's over. I'm not happy with that color. More yellow ochre in that. I'm squinting now. Let me stand back. It's okay for the moment. I may come back and tweak that a little bit. If I can get just a little speck of light between the banisters of that and fuzz them up a little bit, it would be nice. Thumb painting. So I'm always glad that I have no cobalt, no cadmium on my palette. Gives me the freedom to do that crazy thumb painting stuff. I'm mixing up a pale orange. I'm not entirely happy with the color of this sand up here. It's at this point that a painting goes, that so often you go, oh, you know what, no matter how fast you paint, no matter how loose you paint, no matter how impressionistic, this is not technically true, but emotionally, no matter how impressionistic you paint, there's always a point at which, like, oh, painting takes a while. And I am aware of the fact that Some of you might be watching and you're falling asleep, you're getting bored. Well, can't be helped. Okay, now let's lighten up these people a little bit. You see by the way the kind of brush I'm using and the way I'm holding the brush and the fact that I'm holding it with my left hand mostly, all of those things serve to help me not make these people too tight or hard edge, right? Boy, sometimes when you scratch, you really don't know what you're going to get. Well, let's add another. Let's add a little kid here. Okay, good enough for first layer. By the way, this little thing right here, I think I'm going to turn into a beach umbrella, closed up, folded up. I think. Okay, now this is a nudist beach, as you can see. Everybody's naked. I'll remedy that in just a minute. I'm mixing up, well, okay, I'll go ahead and put some clothes on these people. Red on one of them for sure. It matches, goes with the umbrella. There's a woman, right? See, her bathing suit is in two pieces. Let's do a man in blue, pale blue. Close enough. Little mess. And a child in white. Likewise, another man here in white. And I think a woman in white as well. Yeah. I may not be finished with those figures, but they're mostly finished. And let me bring you in so you can see those really closely, what I've just done there, to give you some idea. That's blown up. You're seeing it way larger than I'm seeing it in real life. When we back out, they begin to look like people. Good enough? I may touch them up a little bit, not sure. Okay, hang on here. Let me zoom you in a little bit. Okay. I'm going to hit this umbrella with a slap of red and call that finished, I hope. Okay. Oh, I know I'm going to add a touch of white to that. In fact, a touch that has to be done with a palette knife. Okay, I think that looks like, you know, the beach with people on it. My people, I think, need shadows slightly. So let me see if I can do that really quickly without eating up too much time here. A little bit of a shadow. No, it's too dark. I'm going to have trouble with that. I can see that. So I've got transparent everything at this distance is just so lightly done, so lightly done. And the shadow under this umbrella is way too dark, so let me fix that with some, but not by obliterating it, not by, almost never do you put, you know, obliterate in your mind and cover up what I normally call plaster. You know, very rarely do you just plaster things. Very rarely. Almost always a mistake. Keep it light, keep it thin. You can always come back and add a little bit more. But once you put it on, it's really hard to take it off. It's hard to undo plastering. I just broke a rule right there, by the way. I did dark, transparent red on top of red. So there you go. The name of my book is Breakable Laws of Painting. There's a time and a place where every rule you can mention can and should be broken. And that was one, I believe. I think it worked successfully, so I'm not going to sweat over it. Okay, I really did want this painting to go faster than this. Welcome, as I said, welcome to the world of painting. I really didn't want to spend this much time. But, and here's what I say to myself all the time, but whoa, 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 before you get all anxious and upset and so on. Better to do a good painting, better to finish with a good painting than to rush it and ruin it. So, and I, as you know, I say that as one who finishes paintings with considerable dispatch. Can I use that word? You know, I don't fiddle, I don't hang around a long time. Some of you guys do, and you really need to not listen to what I just said. Okay, that looks pretty nice. As soon as I say that, I go, wait a minute, no, one more speck of white. Yeah. I'm trying to get just a little sliver triangle of white into this section. There we go. All right, I'm fairly happy with how that looks. A little bit of light on this, on the bikini there. Oh, and the little kid has kind of gotten, he's disappeared here. Let me negative paint him a little bit and give him a slightly dark head. Can I do that? Actually, he should be wearing a hat, shouldn't he? All these people should be wearing hats. Okay, I think that's good enough. Very fuzzy, very non-defined. One little thing I'm going to fix on this cottage. I thought I was done with the cottage, but I'm not. This very strangely shaped window. Let's just straighten it up a tiny bit, so it doesn't look quite so weird to us. This flagpole here was rendered with a scratch, and I like it quite well with a scratch, but up here in the sky the scratch didn't work, so there. Good example, by the way. Let me zoom in, because that's a good teaching point. So here's a flagpole. The bottom part is rendered completely with the scratch of a brush handle, and the top part is rendered with a palette knife. So it makes it much more interesting than if it were rendered only with one technique. Whew. Did you get that? Same thing with these power lines. They were painted with a brush, painted with a palette knife, and negative painted, reverse painted. In fact, I need to reverse paint. You know what I mean by reverse paint? You don't paint the thing, you paint around the thing. That's what I'm calling at the moment, calling reverse painting, negative painting. That's what you do when you do sky holes in trees. You are negative painting or reverse painting. You're trying to paint sky so that the stuff around the sky looks like a tree. And if anybody, you beginner, if you think sky holes sounds easy, you probably have another thing coming. All right, probably time for a break here. When I come back, I'm going to begin to tackle the sea oats, this grass. It's nice, but I need some light now on top of it. And then the fences, one fence there, one there, maybe one there, and sand. And I'll start moving down the canvas. But the top of the painting is mostly done. Of course, I'm always have permission, give myself freedom to change my mind and add something anytime. But I think it's mostly done. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back in a bit.